Hey, everybody, thank you today for showing up at the Jay Young Show, and this is episode number 150. Is that epic or what? I mean, 150 shows we've been on here doing this same thing, inspiring people, inspiring the 16 to 22-year-olds, as Jordan always says. Hey, we want to get in here and tell people, what life's about, what other experiences that we've done, what other mistakes have we done that we can help you. And here's a guy that we're going to have on right now. Well, Jordan, come on. Where are you, Jordan? Are you there? Hey, there you are.
Hello.
Oh my goodness. Hey, Jordan, how you doing today?
Oh, good. It was winter for a day, and now we're back to summer.
Yeah,
So,
I know.
what are you going to do about that? We love Texas.
It's
But
crazy.
yeah, as you said, Jay, like the point of the show is to help people find their path and understand the journey towards entrepreneurship. And it looks so different for so many different people in so many different capacities. And it's really inspiring to hear the stories of overcoming challenges and then seeing new opportunities. I think that that's really what's exciting about this. And if we can help a lot of people or if we just help one person, I think the goal of this is just to help.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
very excited for our guest today. Jay, you want to introduce him?
Yeah, we have Staff Sergeant Jason Morgan, a guy that's never made a mistake. Or is that you, Jordan? I'm not sure which one that is.
Oh, no. I've made plenty.
No, Jason.
We're in the same boat.
I know. Hey, and that's as long as you learn, and that's what Mark Cuban said. All you got to do is be right once. All you got to do is be right once, and this is what. But we're gonna make mistakes. But he served in the U.S. Air Force. He's an elite special operations gentleman with a life-changing accident in the Andes Mountains that left him paralyzed. And despite
wow.
facing unimaginable challenges, he's never given up on life or his mission to inspire others. And that's what I love about him, man. Here we go. Here we go right here, Jordan, with a good one. He's a best-selling author of A Dog Called Hope, A Wounded Warrior and the Dog Who Saved Him, and a passion as an advocate for veterans. Mental health and overcoming adversity. Overcoming adversity. Can you imagine? I can't imagine this guy. I can't.
You
Hey,
know, let's bring him on. Where's he at?
yeah.
Where's he at?
Hey, there you
There you
go.
go.
Awesome. What a story this guy has. An incredible story. Talking about inspiration for others, but let's talk about
Yes.
that resiliency before you
Yeah.
that got you here today, right? I mean, that's tough. But let's start at the beginning, if you don't mind, which I kind of like to do. Kind of take us back to where you childhood, North Dallas, and then why did you join? Why did you join the Air Force? And tell us a little about your journey, Jason. Welcome to the show.
And thank you so much for having me on the show. It's a true honor. I guess we can. My dad always told me that when I was a little kid, anytime a plane would fly up, I would look at it. So I've always been attracted to airplanes and kind of seemed like the Air Force was a good fit. But played a lot of sports in college, very competitive, or in high school and growing up. And one thing I was excelled at, one of the best things is golf, and our team won the 5A state championship. So we all got scholarships to universities. So I was kind of like on my career to collegiate golf, and that turned around drastically as things never go as planned. And just college wasn't the right time for me then. I just felt like I had the discipline but I don't think I had the ambition.
Mm,
And I decided that maybe I should try the Air Force Reserve Air National Guard, kind of start off and finish school and kind of get my life on track. And I just wasn't really going anywhere. And being in the guard, I was like the youngest guy there. A lot of people had already done their 10 or 15 years and just kind of
yeah.
settling back and I was really motivated, really. And I think they got myself in trouble a lot because I was always trying to get things done. And so I finally got a chance to go on active duty and to weather. So I was a weather forecaster and loved it. I think I went through first you go through the observing part, weather, and then I did that for a couple of years. I went back to school for I think it's like 1,200 hours through meteorology school. It's one of the toughest schools in the Air Force.
Mm,
I did that because I always still wanted to fly. I always had that dream, and I thought maybe I'd do it civilian. My eyes weren't good enough to do it in the military, and that was
mm,
before you had the surgery. So I thought, weather would always help me as a pilot. And during that time, I got my pilot's license when I was like 20 years old. I worked two jobs to get my pilot's license and was good at flying and thought weather would help and just went into meteorology. And then I kept seeing these guys. We'd go through different schools and stuff, and whether you're always going through schools, you know. And so every once in a while, I'd see this guy with this gray beret. I'm like, oh, who are these guys? And had the jump wings on their chest and the scuba
Mm.
halo wings, and it's like these some cool guys. And I heard about this combat weather team.
Yeah.
They did weather for special operations and like denied territories and behind enemy lines. And I'm like, man, I'm all for this. I'm ready
Hmm.
to go. So I had 8 more months of forecasting school, and I said it's good time to get in shape. So they told me that the first school is the easiest school is jump school. It's the Army Airborne Jump School. And I'm like, man, I thought I got in line to fly planes, not jump out of them. But anyway,
Right.
it took me. And so they said that you have to do like a 2 mile run in like 15 minutes or something like that, a little 15 minutes. And so when I put, it was like a PT test. And I'm like, cool, I'll just run a couple miles, just kind of see where I am. And I made it like 3/4 of a mile and I was huffing and puffing and walking the rest of the way. So fortunately, I had 8 months and worked really hard. I was at the gym almost every day, and I was in the you have to do a lot of swimming in this job too. So I was in the pool 3 times a week, and I was running almost every day, and got myself in shape. And when the time came, I tried out and went through the school, and it was over a couple of years long, and I made it as a combat weather meteorologist, and it was the best thing that ever happened. It changed my life completely.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So my dad, Air Force as well, and he was in Special Forces, and it's a whole other ball game when you get into that. You have not to dismiss anything else, but it is like you said, you're like constantly in school, you're constantly learning. Like there's always that constant evolution, which you appreciate because you're like, okay, we're going, but yeah, that base foundational level is like hats off to you because it's not easy to get past all of that stuff. You know, one of the things that I wanted to talk about a little bit more was that elite special operations unit. When you're providing support in those high risk environments, it's a lot. There's a lot of adrenaline rush. There's a lot that comes with that afterwards. It's a lot in the moment. What was it like working alongside the Army Special Forces and then the 160th SOAR? What did you learn about those intense experiences? I mean, the environments, the people, the camaraderie, the adrenaline, all of that together.
Yeah, I mean, it was an amazing experience, and I met some of the greatest guys in the world. And but when I first started, I realized I wasn't as much of a badass as I thought I was. A little green, and
We
I
never
thought,
are. We
no,
hope.
and going through all that schooling, and I think it was almost 2 years of schooling, and half of that was in special operations school, and I felt like I was really green, and it was tough because I was the only Air Force guy attached to all Army guys, so
Mm,
you stand out.
yes.
If you're
Yes,
the
you
best
do.
or the worst, they're very mediocre. They're gonna know. But those guys really took me under their wing, and at first I felt like unfortunately I was more of a liability, than
Mm,
an asset, and I wanted to change that really quick, so I worked really hard, and everything in that career field is all about shoot, move, and communicate, and
I
I
love
became
that.
a accurate shooting, effective moving, and adequate communications or good at communication. So, I worked at those things, and the thing with the special forces is, they're called force multipliers, is they train other people how to fight and do things. So I'm just like, well, train me. I'll pretend like I'm one of your guys, and so I just embedded myself with them. I spent more time with
Yeah.
them than the excuse me than the Air Force side, and learned a lot. And because I realized that you're as strong as the weakest link. And
Mhm.
you never want to be that link. There's 12 guys on a team that all your life depends on them, and so it was just kind of integrating myself in there, and then getting better at what I did. And I mean, these guys were just absolutely amazing. Anytime there was everyone's just a phone call away. I mean, if I had any
Yeah.
issues at all, there's so many guys that I could count on, that would be there, and as I would be for them. And and it was we're kind of new, not new, but a lot of people didn't know about us. So, I went with the group. I was with third battalion, third group special forces. So I went over there, and I'm like, this is who I am. This is what I can do. Now, how can you use me to become better? Have your unit
Yeah.
be better, And so anyway, it went really good. We had some great missions, some missions not so great, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
it
tell
was
us.
an amazing group of
Yeah,
those
let's walk
guys.
back. Let's walk back 25 years ago, and I'm sure this has everything to do with where you are today and what some of the experiences. But tell us about 25 years ago when you did the security mission, volunteer for the security mission in the Andes. What can you take us back there? I know you probably don't like to, or this is something that's kind of you know.
No, it's all right. It made me who I am today. So it's kind of been my
And that's a
journey.
good
So
thing. That's a good thing.
yeah,
I think that's a
it
good
is.
thing. That's a great.
It is, and it's broken roads lead me to where I am now. So I've no regrets at all. And so 26 years ago, I worked with Third Special Forces Group, and then I was trying to go up through the field. I eventually went to work for Delta Force. So kind of the 160th and Night Stalkers were the next step. And you might remember from the movie Black Hawk Down, they do all the black ops and night ops and so forth. So I switched from a ground unit to aviation unit, to helicopter unit. So kind of changed my weather and different things, and enjoyed it. So we were on a mission in South America, in Ecuador, and we were training the Ecuadorian special forces how to combat the FARC, which is it's like Al Qaeda except in South America.
Mm.
I think they call themselves the freedom fighters. They
Yes.
do a lot of drug trades, obviously, and then human trafficking and a lot of different things. Um, they kidnap Americans that we had to try to rescue at different times. So they're pretty bad guys down there. I think they're still in power today. So we went down there, and we were down there for about a month, and we were training these guys how to fight them. And like we'd go on missions with them, we'd jump with them, and just kind of show them, um, just how to become a better operator. And one of our helicopters, we had two helicopters there. One of our helicopters broke down. So it was an 8-hour drive to the town of Quito to get the part. They flew it into Quito.
Hmm.
So our driver needed two guys for security to provide security for the driver. We're like in regular SUVs. So I thought it'd be kind of a chance to get off. We were in this town called Coca, and it was a big mud pit. So no drugs in the town of Coca, right? They named that town after it. But so we went on this 8-hour journey through the Andes Mountains, and on our way, I don't remember this, but this is my flashbacks of what I remember is we got ambushed from behind. I was in the
Mm.
back seat, and so I was hanging out the back seat trying to disable the vehicle and the people in the vehicle not to get too graphic. And our driver didn't make the next corner. It's called Dead Man's Curve. And he didn't
Mm.
make the corner. And as he's driving, he just kind of slid off the road, and our SUV started just flipping down the ravine. And as the
And you were
vehicle
in the
was
back.
flipping, what's
Oh
that?
my God. And you were in
Yeah,
the back.
I was in the back, right? So, and I was hanging out. So I was like halfway, you
Hmm.
know, hanging out back, looking at the
Yeah,
rear.
yeah, right.
So because I was halfway hanging out, as the vehicle started flipping down, I was ejected from the vehicle. I landed
Oh,
face down on this ledge of like muddy water. Then the vehicle rolled over me and crushed my back.
Wow.
And to
oh,
make it worse, it like smashed me face down in the water. So I couldn't breathe. Every time I took a breath, I was just ingesting this,
mud.
stagnant water. Then I was drowning. And
Wow.
the vehicle was about another couple hundred feet from me. My best friend Travis, he broke his back as well. So he was still in the vehicle, paralyzed, couldn't move. And the driver was injured, but not critical. And I think not sure what's going on, but he had no idea where I was and couldn't find me. And I mean, talk about God watching after you in a remote place. Is American missionary named Steve Sutherland. They were driving by to check on a remote antenna site, and he saw the skid marks going off the side of the road. And as it was called Dead Man's Curve, as I told you earlier. So thought, maybe it'd be an accident there. So they stopped the vehicle. They looked over the ledge and they saw a vehicle down at the bottom of the ravine.
Wow.
So he told me, I met him many years later, and when he's back in the States, and he told me that as he's trying to safely make his way down the mountainside, he found me because he stepped on me. Because I was so buried in the mud face down.
God.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So he pulled
Wow.
forward and I started breathing again, but I was in really bad shape. I mean, my vertebrae basically just went sideways like this
Mm.
and
Oh,
back,
oh
and
my
then
gosh.
eventually one of my lungs collapsed and the other one was full of water. And just to make it even more, matters worse, like it's getting worse, but we were at 14,000 feet, so it was hard to breathe anyway. So yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, no, I was
yeah.
gonna say so what, like the hospital infrastructure and medical infrastructure there, like how did they just take you back to your base? Like what happened afterwards whenever they found you? What happened next?
Yeah, so first he called the U.S. Embassy. So he had other people stopped. They tried to help with the rescue, and we were in such a remote spot. The cell phones didn't work in that area. Of course, cell phones are kind of new, in the late
Yes.
90s or
Right. Right.
yeah. Um, but because he had his radio, I was able to call the radio station, which is a Christian radio station called Voice of the Indies, and
Mm.
so they were able to relay that message to the U.S. Embassy. Told them we had guys here. They had no idea we were even in country. When you do covert ops like that, there's
Right.
not many
Yeah.
people know about it, and so they said, well, we're going to send an ambulance to get them. We're going to take them to this hospital. They knew I could be guarded there. They're going to send some Marines to guard us. The only problem is that they said it was going to be 3 hours before the ambulance got there. So
Huh.
um, Steve decided that he didn't think I was going to make it for 3 hours. So he took all the seats out of his van. He had a minivan and loaded me and Travis and the other guy in the minivan and drove
Oh,
halfway to meet the ambulance. And
wow.
he thought he just wanted to get me off the mountain, at least to get a lower
Yeah.
altitude where I could probably breathe better. It's a good
Yeah.
thing because he told me that, and I was still conscious at the time, but I don't remember it. But he told me that as soon as we got to the ambulance, I quit breathing. I had to insert a chest tube to inflate one of my lungs. So that was,
Oh, wow.
I think, one of 4 times that I was arrested and had to revive me.
Wow.
Did you have strong faith like before all of this happened or after this accident happened? Was that something that just kind of like resonated with you? Was like, wow, like I have someone great in my corner and like I was taken care of and like because in the Bible it talks about being God's hands and feet, right? And so
Right.
when you're looking at people who are acting, right, and they're going forward and like helping others and like going out of their way to do so and then it ends up saving your life, like what impact did that have on you and has that stayed with you as you've continued your journey forward and how so?
Um, it has, and so I was a believer before my
Mm.
injury, and I think there was so many miracles that had to happen for me to be here,
Yeah.
and that's we hadn't even gotten to, this is a 3 hour show. We could probably go through all of it, but I kind of needed that because when I went to a coma for they got me back in the U.S. like within 48 hours, which is amazing.
Yeah.
They medevac to plane out, and then even the issues with that is that when you're in a country you're not supposed to be in, they can't send a regular medevac plane that says U.S. Army or Air Force on the side
Right.
of it. So they
Yeah.
found a generic plane that to medevac it out, and then get the staff and fly and get me back to the U.S. They brought me back actually to San Antonio, Lackland Air Force Base. But when I woke up from my coma several months later, I woke up with this severe nerve pain. It felt like someone's like stabbed me with an ice pick. It was really, really bad. And unfortunately, I still have that pain. It's not as bad, but I went through a lot of dark moments during that time, and I just like, well, I know I'm here for a reason. I know, and so that's what resonated with. Me. That's what kind of kept me
Yeah.
going. Is that I know that God has a plan for me. He made it very clear He wanted me to be alive. I should not be here. There's so many things that happened, and so I just got to try to be patient and wait on Him.
Yeah.
Sometimes we wish it was in our timing, but it never is.
No.
So I needed that. I needed that to kind of keep me going, especially through the really difficult times.
What then
Yeah.
inspired you, or what were you? Is it helping others? I mean, so
Yeah.
how many people went over the mountain, the Dead Man's Corner? How many people were in the van?
It was 3 of us.
Three of us. Okay, so you got, and all three of you make it. I mean,
Yes.
today, are you still talking, or I know it's been
No,
25 years, but
unfortunately, my best friend and the driver both took their life shortly after.
Oh.
oh
Oh
wow,
no.
I know that's
Yeah.
something we
So
want to talk about too, about not only getting through that physically, but also mentally, emotionally, and
Yes.
what's the difference? How did you get through it, and what do you think happened to them? Is that the right way to say that, Jordan? I don't know if that's right.
I mean,
I don't know if
like
there
it's
is
a
a right
tough
way.
question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's,
I don't know.
there's no right way to ask it because
Yeah.
it is like it's so sensitive because it's so personal, but at
Hmm.
the same time, it's like something that we've discussed a lot, and like the struggle is that it's not a pretty conversation. It's a
Hmm.
tough
Right.
conversation,
Absolutely.
but I
Absolutely.
think that it's worth having,
Yeah.
and it's something that we've talked through a lot on our show. But yeah, I'm very interested to hear your insight as to what you think that difference maker was. I mean, I'm sure the guilt that comes along with that, with you all surviving. I'm yeah, I'd love to learn more about your
You know,
thoughts.
I didn't know the driver very well, but I can only imagine the way he felt is that he put two people in a wheelchair for the rest of their life. I think that
Mm,
that guilt stayed with him for a long time. And I only I met him one time. He came by the hospital. We were not stationed at the same place, and I want to make sure like this is not your fault. This is
yeah.
and I don't know how you can get through something like that. My best friend Travis, we stayed in touch for a while, and we would meet like twice a year. We'd go meet somewhere and just have fun. And he was always, in good spirits and everything. And then I'm not sure what happened. I didn't talk to him for a while, and I found that out that,
Mm,
someone told me that, that he had taken his life, and it just, and I look back and, fortunately, for me, it was my family and my faith. Getting a service dog was huge for me. I think
Mm.
that's one of the biggest things that helped me.
Did he have one? Did he have a dog?
I do, yes,
No,
yeah.
did he?
He's
I saw the clip on some TV station about you and your dog. We want to talk about that, but did he have a dog? Did Travis have a
no, he
dog?
didn't. No,
Yeah. Okay.
no, and that would have been the first. I think that was. I got one. I think after that happened with him, and I
oh,
wish. Yeah, I wish I would have known.
Yeah.
I wish. I think some of these. Of course, you see a lot of these dogs with the fake vests on, and the service
yes.
dog got a chihuahua like being a service dog. But the
Right.
real ones are absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I said, like you said, we can talk about them in a minute. But I just thought that,
Well, hey, you wrote the book. You
yeah,
wrote the
my
book, a
dog did.
dog. Let's talk about that real quick, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so it was after I was injured. Kind of what led up to the book was after I was injured. I had three young boys. They were 1, 3, and 4 at the time, and I spent the next 3 years, or the next 7 years, I spent almost 3 years in the hospital. I had pressure
Oh,
sores, so it was horrible. One time I was in the hospital for 11 straight months, and just to kind of put it, I don't. This is something I don't really talk about very often, but to tell you what kind of a place I was in, I was I had that severe, I had this severe nerve pain. So every 3 hours I get a big dose of morphine, and it would
oh,
last for about 30 or 40 minutes, and then my pain would start back. So for 11 months, I'd just sit there and just watch the clock. And as soon as my time to get my morphine shot, I'd hit the button and
Oh my
get my
gosh.
shot. That's the way I lived for 11 straight months. And
Oh man,
so
can
then,
imagine.
when I finally got rid of, I had a bone infection. That's what Christopher Reeve died from. So it was serious. But when they finally, everything was good, and I was going home, and I was excited to tell my wife I was going home. Well, she had met someone else many months ago. I was in the hospital.
Hmm.
In fact, he was actually living at my house. So she said, when you get home, you get a few months, you need to find a new place to live. And I think she forgot that, or maybe how much fight I still had in me. But I'll just put it this way: at the end of the 2 months when I was supposed to move out, it was her and her boyfriend that moved out. So I got the house and the kids, and
Hell
that was a
yeah.
huge, yeah, that
Hell
was,
yeah,
whoa, hold
man.
on. That was a left turn there.
I
yeah,
know.
I
I
was
want to
not
recap that a little
expecting
bit.
that.
Okay, so
Like,
yeah,
so
let's
okay,
recap.
wait, what? So in the hard, I'm sorry. Like
Yeah.
in the hardest moment of your life partner decides that this is not for them. You're navigating excruciating pain every single day. You're like a hero serving in the with for the country, and like you come back, you're in this horrible place mentally, emotionally, physically, and how do you navigate that? It just feels like, okay, there's really two things that I could see in my mind. One is everything had to fall apart so something better could fall together. The other part of that is what like what kind of made like severed that? Like was that just like she it was too much for her, and how do you navigate that relationship? Like I'm sorry, I'm trying to wrap my head around this because I couldn't imagine like
yeah. Well, I think she just got really bitter when I got hurt. She kind of got bitter towards the military, and
ah
um, kind of towards the thing we did. And you know, I guess the best way to explain it is that she got even though she was a nurse, she got hooked on my pain medication. Completely
Oh,
changed,
Mm.
completely changed her
Yeah.
everything she
yeah.
did, and she just wasn't the same person. And I, there's a reason why 90% of guys that go through an injury like mine get a divorce. I mean, we're
Yeah.
especially in the state I was in before.
Yeah.
We went from jumping out of airplanes to a wheelchair.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
be in a hospital for that long. So we're, mentally we're the same person, but physically we're not. So it's tough. I'm not making excuses for it because there really isn't. But I think it's just a hard thing to deal with. And
Yeah.
but in a way, I felt it was a blessing because if I would have gone out and let's say moved into an apartment or something like that, and if I didn't have a reason to wake up in the morning, I'm not sure if I would have. You
Yeah.
know, I'm not sure where that road would have gone, but I don't see anything good coming out of it. And
Yeah.
me having the boys, it gave me a reason, to
Right.
be
Right.
around. So, hey, I'm gonna start off being a father first, and it was difficult. I still had one in diapers, and being in a wheelchair and being a single dad. I mean, it's hard enough being a single parent, but
Right.
being
Yeah.
in a wheelchair and
And
doing
three
that too. And
boys.
yeah, so it was, I remember when my son was trying to change his his diaper, and I like grab his hand because if I use both hands to pick up someone, I just fall over. I don't have the trunk. I have the arm
Right.
strength, but not the trunk strength. And so like I'd grab his hand and he'd just kind of crawl up my wheelchair, and I'd kind of toss him on the bed. Don't tell Child Protection Services on that, but
Wow. And this kind of
No,
comes
yeah,
that's
in.
play. That's allowed.
yeah,
That's play. That's fun.
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah. So that's
They
how
don't
we,
care.
so we
Boys
just,
don't care. Good. You had boys. It would have been different
yeah,
if you had
Hey,
girls.
yeah.
I loved it. That was
Yeah.
one of my favorite things whenever my dad would throw me around. So we won't tell on
All
you.
right.
Okay,
But so
we
so you're
recorded it, right? Just kidding.
you have your boys and that helps keep you going, but you also talked about having your service dog. You've even co-authored a dog called Hope, which has inspired so many people. And I think you just even being so candid about what's happened in your life, like I think has also helped so many people. So how did your service dog Nepal play a role in your recovery? I mean, I know that you talked about not, like helping the dog, helping you like go forward alongside your children, but let's unpack that a little bit more.
Well, sure. I mean, I could probably say that my first dog, Nepal, probably saved my life. I mean, it was, and for several reasons. One is that, having a service dog that can do everything this dog could do gave me a lot of independence, which I really
Mhm.
needed, which really helped me out a lot.
Like what? Like what? Give us some examples if you don't
So
mind.
he can, if I drop objects, which I do all the time, he'll retrieve them for me.
Oh,
If I
great.
hold onto his vest, he can pull me. He can open and close doors, get a drink out of the refrigerator. I mean, um,
Just the
he can
That's
get my
basics.
really
clothes
cool.
out of the dryer, washer. He hasn't learned how to fold them yet. We're working on that part.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'll get my clothes out of the dryer that I can't reach. I mean, it's just endless, what these
That's
dogs
great.
do. But it gave me a lot of confidence. It helped me like when I was in having a lot of my nerve pain, he would just like rest his head on my lap, just kind of like, I'm here for you, buddy.
Yeah.
He could tell when I was hurting. And I'm with this dog more than my own kids. I'm with this dog 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
So you really kind of read each other. But one of the biggest things was that, so like I'd go into the grocery store and be in a wheelchair, people didn't know I was military or why I was in a chair. And not that they were being mean, I think it's just out of ignorance that it's almost like I had a big sign that says I have COVID, stay away. It was,
Oh,
Mm.
oh
really,
no.
people ignored you and they went out of their way not to talk to you. And it was like I was invisible. And it was
Wow.
frustrating knowing that, I almost died for my country fighting for it. And then here I am with no one even notices me. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, they actually try to stay away from me. But I remember the first day I got my dog and brought him into the grocery store. This is, there wasn't very many service dogs. This was 2009, so there wasn't very many service dogs around. This is before the
The
emotional support
movement.
dogs and all that stuff. So I'd bring my dog into the store, and people have never seen a service dog, and they're just amazed. And so, them wanting to find out about my service dog, they got to find out about me and hear my story. So it's like I went from like a invisible to a rock star, just like
Yeah.
overnight. There was no more going to the store to get a quick loaf of bread and milk. I mean,
Oh man,
like
imagine.
I met everyone in the store, and of
Yeah.
course, there's a couple times I might drop something accidentally on purpose, and he'd pick it up just to let him show off and
Yeah.
to do things. But yeah, actually, just the people that I met just by having my dog is, and the things I've done just by having my dog. I mean, that's why I have the book, too. But he brought me out of a really, not only brought me out of a dark place when I first got him, but he was so good with my boys and stuff. My
Hmm.
oldest son has Asperger's, and the way they bonded too, it was really amazing. They had a really special relationship. But just it's just hard to describe the
Yeah.
relationship
Oh,
that
emotions. Oh my
looking at
goodness.
him right now, but it's hard to describe the relationship that
Yeah. Yeah.
we had, and it gave me more confidence. So, I went from barely doing anything. Now I started being in sports again and competing, and
Oh, I
went
love
to the
that.
Paralympic team and different things. All after I got my dog, it just gave me that much confidence
Yeah.
Ah,
in my
it
life.
makes me emotional hearing you say that. And if I can share, I was in a very abusive relationship, and I had super low self-esteem, and I didn't know how to get out of it, and I felt trapped in it, and then getting my dog, and while he's not a service dog, he provided that he just gave me something that I forgot I had, and helped me in a way that he was like water around me. Like,
Hmm.
it didn't matter where I moved, he moved with me. And like, when you talk about that language that you have with your dog, like, you really do understand each other, and like, they give you something that you just so need, and helps you get to a place where you can just recover. And recovery just means it can mean a lot of different things, but I think that that's the best way that I can kind of like tie
Yeah.
it
Oh
in.
yeah.
It's like, it's just recovery.
Yeah. No, no question. No question. And I'm just glad we're off the ex-wife. Telling you to get out of your house when you get back. Man, that's a story. Man, that's a we could do that. But let's talk about the dog. I want to stay with the dog because uh, there was one line in a movie, and I can't remember when that was, but there's a line in the movie that said, "Hey, if you want a friend, get a dog." It's like humans are not necessarily unconditional like a dog is, and all of a sudden,
Right.
a dog is absolutely 100% unconditional love. It doesn't matter what you do to it. They're unconditional love all the time, 100%. And as most people know on the show, my mother-in-law passed a couple of months ago, and our dog, we bought her a dog a few years ago because she didn't have many things to do. Michelle and I would
Yeah.
be gone, and she'd be sitting there by herself, and it's kind of like one of those things. But when we bought her the dog, and she didn't like dogs. I mean, she's a Vietnamese, very clean, and she was still cleaning that dog's butt every time that dog came in from outside, cleaning its paws. I mean, it was like, but it the overall adventure or emotion about having that dog inside overrode her belief of dogs belong outside, period, because she loved that dog. Oh my gosh, Mia, and Mia just misses her. You can tell she mopes around today. But I wanted to take her in the hospital because as Twee was finishing up her life or winding down, and she had a couple of days left, she was just so just laying there, and I wanted to bring that dog in and throw it in the bed, and I don't know what would have happened. I mean, she'd have probably ended her life sooner, but because she'd have been so excited to see that dog. And they say that
Right. Yes.
if you ever want to get kids in a hospital to get excited, take them a dog. So what a what a great story! I tell you, this is really really good, Jason. Talk about it a little bit more. What?
Yeah, I want to share a story with you real quick with
Yeah.
my service dog. In fact, we do go to we visit children's hospitals and
Oh, I
uh,
love that.
different
Hmm.
times, and we haven't gone in a while. We used to go once a week, but just the joy that they bring to these patients. My dad, when he was going through chemotherapy, I had Yago with me, and so I always brought him up to the hospital, and my dad, during his last few days, he wasn't very cognizant of what was going on, but I'd bring my dog. And the last time, just 3 or 4 days before he passed, Yago just put his head like on his lap, and he like I wasn't even there,
Mm.
and I
Yeah.
couldn't even pull him away. And then so they put my dad. Usually he's in his bed, but they had picked him up and put him on a like a recliner that was partially reclined, but not much. And then all of a sudden he did it with one paw at a time. He climbed up on his lap and he stayed there.
Oh
And
my
it was
gosh.
it was and he's never done that. And
Oh,
he just felt like there was a need to do this. And my dad was like hanging on to the leash and my he wasn't really talking then, but it was but
that'd have been a great
so
picture.
yeah, and I was when I had my first dog, Nepal, I had like a this great organization came up to me and said, "Hey, we want to." After I was successful in the Warrior Games and stuff, and had a lot of publicity and different things, and they said, "Hey, we want to sponsor you for the Marine Corps Marathon." I said, "Well, I'm Air Force, right?" And they're like, "Yeah." I was like, "If you don't win, we'll let you go in it." So I'm just saying I didn't win, but no, as I was
Number one, I'm in the
training,
Air Force. Number two, a marathon is 26 miles, right? Like,
yeah.
that's a long way.
And so there's two ways to do a marathon. Like me, you can use a recumbent bike, which is about 90% of the disabled people use. I kind of think that's cheating. I think it's riding a bike during a race, or you can do a push racer where you're actually pushing, the 26.2 miles. So I was in a push racer, so I had about 5 months or 6 months to train for this, and because I'm one of those that I didn't want to just finish, like I wanted to win. That's just the kind of person
Yeah.
that I am. And I was like training really hard and found a great organization that was helping me train, and they had a gym and stuff I was going to, 5 times a week, and we were about 6 weeks away from the marathon, and I had this blister on my heel that just wouldn't go away,
Mm.
and I went in there, and then all of a sudden it just swelled up like really bad. It was like triple the size.
Oh
I
no.
went to the ER and they said, "Yeah, it looks like your bone's infected," and I'm like, "Not again," And I
Yeah.
went to a specialist. He said, "Yeah, you got a bone infection." He goes, "What we can do is we can just scrape off the infected bone." It was right on my heel.
Hmm.
So we can scrape off the infected bone and then put a flap on it and you'll be good. I said, "Well, good, because I have a marathon like in like 5 weeks." And I know that might seem stupid, but I've been training for this thing for 5 months. It's on my bucket list. And it's really
Yeah.
important to me. And so I guess, yeah, just get an MRI. Let's look at it. And then, come back when you get your films. So I came back with my MRI and he went and looked at him and he came back about 15 minutes later. He says, "I got some really bad news." He goes, and my foot was still like majorly swollen. It was, went all the way up to the shin. And he said, "The infection's a lot worse." He said, "We can put you in the hospital like today, put you on strong antibiotics, and we might not be able to save your foot. And you could be in the hospital for a year." He says, "My recommendation is to amputate your leg." And I was like, "Oh, you got to be kidding me." And
Oh my gosh. But
like
talk
I
about
actually,
like just a like going in for a cavity and
I
getting
know, yeah, I
tooth
know.
Yeah.
extraction. Like what?
Yeah.
Hmm.
And yeah, I was shocked. And I started walking with long-legged braces, so it was, and just thinking like, maybe it won't be so bad because they're taking, because I don't really walk for any practical purposes, but no, it hit me pretty hard. But anyway, Nepal was with me. Actually, so Yago, come here, buddy. He's sleeping. Come here, Yago, lap. So this is Yago right here.
Hey,
Oh
there you go.
no,
Hey, look.
Yago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh
So
my
just
Awesome.
like
goodness.
him, Nepal, I didn't give him the command, but Nepal got right up on my lap and he kind of looked at me and he says, "I know, buddy." And he says, "Go off, good boy." And
Unconditional.
he, yeah, and so he's there for a minute, like he knew I was really upset. And it's
Mm.
almost like, "You know what, buddy, we can get through this."
Hmm.
And like I said, I'm with this dog 24/7, so I know really well. So I said, so when he came back, I knew my decision was not to keep my leg or not. I wasn't gonna take a chance on dying to save my leg. But my decision, I realized, was that, am I gonna go back into that dark world that I was in for several years,
Yeah, I was just
or
about to
am I gonna,
ask.
Yeah.
yeah, or am I gonna maybe try to do this marathon, see if there's still a chance. So I came back in, I said, do the amputation as soon as possible, like tomorrow if you can, because I want to try to do this marathon. He goes like, "Well, we'll try. I don't think that's possible, but you know, he said, not only that, he goes, you're gonna be in the hospital. You might still be in the hospital by the time the marathon starts." But he goes, "And if everything goes well, you're still all that training you had, you're gonna lose it. When you
Hmm.
have a surgery like that and you're in bed for a couple of weeks, all that training just kind of goes out the
Yeah.
window." But anyway, we gave it a shot. I went and had my leg amputated. Um, and I remember the first time that at first I put like covers where my leg was, like a blanket, because I didn't want to
I
see
was
it.
about to say, did you have like the phantom leg experience?
Yeah, no, I just because I guess I couldn't feel it. I was paralyzed, so maybe
Oh, right.
different than most.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to see it, so I had like a blanket where my leg was,
Mm.
and so I couldn't tell. But as soon as they had to change the dressing, and I saw my leg was amputated, like I lost it.
Oh my
Like I
gosh,
just
Oh
I bet.
man.
falling. Just it hit me so hard
Wow.
that it's indescribable to tell you when part of your body is missing,
Right.
a large portion of it. And
Yeah.
so I think I cried for like 5 minutes, and then I was good. I'm like, okay, I grieved my leg. Now let's deal with this. And um, they the physical therapist did an amazing job. They made a cover for my leg that covered all the sutures and stuff. And I was out of the hospital in 9 days and ended up doing the
Wow.
marathon.
Wow.
Actually went up to DC to do the marathon. And then we saw everyone like watching the TV, and me being a meteorologist, it only took me a few seconds to realize that there's a hurricane in that. Remember Hurricane Sandy?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, so Hurricane Sandy went through the DC area the day after the marathon. So we're expecting like heavy rain and 45-mile-an-hour winds during the marathon. I'm like, God, really? Like, are you seriously doing this?
I think God
And
said
He
no
wants to know how bad you
marathon
want it.
for
How bad do you
you.
want it?
exactly, it's true. And for that's kind of wish I then I was in a hand cycle because it wouldn't really bother me too much. But when you're so in a racing wheelchair, you don't, a regular wheelchair, you grab the rims with your arms, and as you're pushing. In a
Right.
racing chair, you have these special gloves on. Your hands are in a fist, and you hit your rims like this.
Oh,
So you
you
keep the
hit
speed
him.
and stuff you're going. That way you can do the sub 8 minute miles and be real competitive. But when it's raining, that doesn't work so well. So
Oh wow.
like we're just
Right.
Yeah.
hairspray and gook on my gloves to make them as sticky as they could. And my team, like every 3 miles, we'd respray my hands and the rims of my racer. And but you know what? I didn't like hours. It was about an hour later than I wanted to, but then I was just trying to finish it. But I remember going across the finish line, and I felt like there was nothing I couldn't do. And I've gone through very difficult challenges, even probably more so than that, even recently. But I was just so glad. I never wanted to be a what if. That was a
Yeah.
life-changing experience. And I remember my dog is Nepal's waiting for me at the finish line, and unfortunately, my dog passed shortly after that. He had cancer, and passed shortly after that.
Oh,
But he was only 6, but I was grateful that we shared that because he can sense my excitement. He knew, even though I was hurting so bad, that actually had to pick me up out of my racer and put me in a gurney for 2 hours and ice my back because I was in so much pain, but
Mm.
no regrets. I mean, it
Right.
was
yeah.
it was amazing to be able to do that. And
Do you think that you were born with that persistence and resiliency, or do you think that that was something that came with time through the experiences that you've had,
I
or a
think both.
mixture of both?
Yeah. And my dad was just an amazing guy. He was a mentor to me, and he always challenged me. He never. It was never okay just to be good. Like I was like if we had a great soccer game and only scored like one goal or something, he'd be like, "You should be happy with that." That was about. He just.
Mm-hmm.
But he was always proud of me. Let me know, but he always never let me settle.
Yeah.
I mean, he
Yeah.
always pushed me to be the best I could.
Well, it's
Like, we
so
know you're
important.
good, but can you be great?
Yeah,
And what
Mm-hmm.
does
right.
that greatness mean to you?
Yeah.
Yeah, and even when I was, because I played a lot of sports, and my dad said you can be good at a lot of sports, but you can only be great at one. You need to pick
Mm.
and stick with it. So
Yeah.
I might have picked the wrong one, but
So
anyway,
important. So
yeah.
important. And
Well,
that's
we've talked about so many different things here. I want us to navigate through something that I think is really important, and that is the holiday season. And I think that you've touched on a few things, and Jay has also touched on this as well in this episode, and that is of isolation and how easy, you talked about it through COVID, feeling a little bit of that isolation. Jay's talked about that, a little bit of that isolation with his mother-in-law, and getting a dog and being a part of that. But when we're talking about like isolation and depression and PTSD and other mental health issues, the holidays are a really hard time for some people. So you had co-founded the Veterans Outpost, which is a nonprofit organization, helps disabled veterans and first responders. Can you tell us a little bit more about that mission of the organization and why it's so meaningful to you and other veterans, especially during this holiday season?
Yeah, well, so you kind of know from my story where my background is and why, excuse me, why I wanted to start a program like this. And in fact, I got my 501c probably oh, I don't know, like over 10 years ago. But I never really had the momentum or money or backing to do this, but it always been a dream of mine.
Yeah.
And there was an amazing guy named David Thompson. He was an army, he's in the army. He was a combat photojournalist, and he he had some land. He had like 16 acres, and him and his buddies, his veterans, they raced motocross and did things, and just got together, just good old boys, and so they had one event, and it went to like 2 or 3 in the morning, and a few weeks later, he got a call from a woman, and she goes, "Hey, how can I donate to your foundation or organization?" He goes, "Well, I don't have one," but she goes, "Well, you should because my husband went to your event and he left a suicide note. He was not planning on coming home. That was
Mm.
like his last hurrah. And him going to that event and hanging out with the veterans and speaking around the campfire and, till wee hours in the morning, just helped him pull through.
Oh
And
my
Wow.
gosh.
so he sold the property and got a great offer on it. As he said, I made a stupid offer and they wrote a stupid check. And so we used that money to buy the Veterans Outpost. So he did all this with his own cash. So it's
Wow.
like $500,000 he invested into the Veterans Outpost for because he thought he felt God calling him that there's a need for this. And so so we had the land, and as they were trying to raise money, one of the board members, a guy named Frank, who's awesome guys, he's one of those that if the place needs to be mowed, he mows it. Doesn't have to ask. Like, he just takes care of
Oh,
things.
I
He's kind
love
of behind
that.
the scenes, amazing guy. And
That's good people. That's good
it is.
people.
They're rare to find.
Right.
So he saw like an article on me or something, and he contacted me. He says, "Hey, I want to talk to you about this place that we have." He's on the board about the Veterans Outpost, and so him and his friend Jason, also named Jason, came over to my house, and he started telling me about the Veterans Outpost and what they're planning on doing, and like I had like tears in my eyes. I'm like, this has been my dream for 10 years, 15 years to do this,
Wow.
and then, and so as I met David, the owner, he read my book and he says, "Man, I'm missing out." He goes, "I don't want to just help guys with PTSD, but I want you to be a co-founder and you work with the guys with disabilities." And so he goes, "There's plenty of land. There's 50 acres. So there's
There's plenty of space
plenty of space."
to do all the
And
things.
so we've been working really hard and we got our, sorry,
Oh,
we
that's
got
okay.
building built, the first one. We got at least the outside, the shell of it built, and it's like a 4,200 square foot event center. And so we're at, I think it was going to be about 1.2 million to get to that point, and we're like at a million, so we're getting close. And so it's just amazing that God just keeps putting people on our path, just shows up and gives money and helps. And sorry, and our galas, have been huge too. And we have Congressman Keith Self, U.S. Congressman. He's a Army veteran, and he's gone to all of our events and helped promote us. And we just had some amazing guys. So we're getting close, and it's just exciting to see that this thing coming to life. And now there's a building there, and I know there's 22 veterans that take their life every day, average. I think
Yeah,
it's actually higher than that.
it is.
Actually,
It's
do you
higher.
all remember Floyd McClendon y'all had on your show?
Yeah.
The Navy SEAL. He's one of our board members.
Oh wow.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
awesome. Look, a
yeah,
small
amazing
world.
guy. Yeah, and
Yes, very great
he's our
guy.
token Navy SEAL guy on the board now.
You have
Um,
to have one.
oh yeah, he's great because anytime I need to get up steps, he just picks me up and carries me. So yeah, wish I could take him there for a minute, but no, it's really exciting that we know that we're going to make a dent in that number. I know what has helped me, and I deal with. It's hard to talk about PTSD because sometimes I think it's kind of taken for granted, and everyone in the military says they have it. It's like
Ah,
what you do is like I was an accountant, but I have PTSD. I'm like, oh, okay, right, okay, sure you do.
right. Yeah, no.
And it hurts the people that really need it and have it, but we know who to look for, and but sorry to make this short story very long, but we're gonna have some great programs in there that is but really we're just, the families a lot of times are left out. And so we want to make these family retreats because like I wish that my boys could have met kids like them whose dad was in a wheelchair their whole life. No
Hmm.
one can relate to what they're doing. No one can.
Yeah.
And that makes it really tough for them. I mean, thank goodness there's three of them and they're really close. But and veterans too, it's like And the reason why, um, one of the reasons that made me want to start the Veterans Outpost, or, for me, actually, I was going to name it something else, Operation Renewed Strength, and Greek stories that when I was coming out of my coma, I was in induced coma, they bring me out, and I was not responding correctly, and they thought because I had brain damage, and it's a good thing I did because I used to be like really, really smart, so I was kind of even with everyone else. So I don't know. But so my brother was asking me, I was in ICU, my brother was asking me, he said, Jason, what's your favorite verse? And I started talking. I had a feeding tube and a chest tube, so it was hard for him to hear me. And he put his ear up. He thought I was just mumbling again, as I was the whole time. And I quoted Isaiah 40:31 that says, "For those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will walk and not grow weary. They will run and not be faint." So I named it Operation Renewed Strength. And
Well,
that's exactly what we're trying to do, is find the strength back in these guys that they've lost it,
right.
with the help, their faith, or with the help of other veterans. And the first thing that we built on the Veterans Outpost was this 9-foot fire pit. And because that's where the magic happens, campfire
Yes.
theory. That's where they feel safe and comfortable. And, we're going to make it an atmosphere and that is conducive for people to, we, like for me, like my PTSD didn't even start until like 15 years. It started after my leg was amputated. And I think that just traumatic experience alone
Yeah.
kind of just, and I always thought that,
I was gonna ask because when you had said that you lost it and you had your breakdown and you were crying,
Mm-hmm.
I was curious about like, is that when it all kind of sank in? Because you get, and the reason that I ask that and say that way is because after you go through a traumatic experience and then you're like transported, it's almost like Star Trek when you're like beamed into a different reality, and you're just like, and then life doesn't stop. So you're just going and making things happen and going through the motions, and then the next thing, and then the next thing. And when you finally are in a space where you like have to be still, and then something happens, like, is that when it kind of just like really resonated with you, like everything that had happened, or were there little moments before that, and like, and then you had said like the PTSD kind of set in after that. I kind of just want to unpack that just a little bit.
yeah. So when I was going through issues, I didn't even know it was PTSD. I mean,
Oh,
so it took me until recently just to even discover that. And, I would have things like my wife, and the things I definitely want to share is I got married almost 4 years ago, completely changed my life.
Hey, there you go.
And she has a son that's also, I have a boy in the Air Force, and so does she. It was pretty cool.
Go Air
Yeah.
Force.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
We're an Air Force family. Um, but when, you know, like when she comes in the room, she has to like sing or let herself know, because if I'm in the room and I think I'm by myself and all of a sudden I see someone in the corner of my eye, it scares me so bad I scream out loud. It's
Mm.
it's horrible. It's
Yeah.
embarrassing. Um, and there's a few other things that, I still have like bad nightmares, and they come and go and different things, but it's not really bad. It's manageable, but
But it's
you
there.
it's there. It's
Yeah.
definitely there.
Yeah.
And unfortunately it's getting worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just started my journey trying to help with this. I didn't even know that I even had it. So it's sometimes it's tough to even recognize or even know, because you don't really. I know PTSD is a common word, but I think of people with PTSD are the ones in the over there in Afghanistan, Iraq, that were had their friends that were killed and go in these doorways and these firefights and different things, and
Yeah.
things like that. But it can be a lot of different things, and I think it's important to recognize the triggers, and then at the Veterans Outpost, we're not going to talk anyone off the ledge. We're not, but fortunately, we are partnered with Glen Oaks Hospital that's nearby. So if we see guys that are really bad, it's a great place for them to go to. It's like a 7-day facility, but our job, what we want to try to do is not let them get to the ledge in the first place. Let them know how to
Yeah.
manage it, to put them in the right environment, and just like horseback riding. Like when I get on a horse, it feels like I'm walking. It's the most amazing experience. I can't even, I have a twin sister, and we had horses growing up, and she showed horses, and so I've always been around horses, and
Mm-hmm.
but wasn't until I wrote after I was paralyzed that I was like, it was great. I could go anywhere I wanted to. The freedom, because my wheelchair is like my prison sometimes. If
Yeah.
it's not hard level ground,
Right,
I
right.
can't go. So on a horse, I can go anywhere I wanted to. And
Well, and doesn't their like heart isn't their heart rate like a little slower or something, and like it like calms your heart rate or something? Is
I
that
don't know. It's a possibility, but the way their legs made me feel like I was walking too,
yeah.
and to be able to have that different perspective from instead of being,
Yeah, and you're so high up.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
you
I bet I bet it's because you're sitting down all the time below people, and all of a sudden here you are on a horse. I can see that.
yeah, scuba diving is the same thing. And
Yeah,
when I'm scuba diving, I mean, my boys are all certified scuba diving too.
awesome.
Is that there's nothing off limits?
Yeah,
I don't even know my chair stays behind.
Mhm.
And these are things that if I didn't do them, I wouldn't know about it. And you could like ride a horse, and it doesn't last for a day; it lasts for months.
wow,
Like
Yeah.
the hiking you and
wow.
so there's a lot of things that I think that we can really help. And we're gonna have the counselors there, but we really just want them to start their journey. Let them know that you can get help and provide the therapy for them if they need it. But that's the hardest thing is
Right.
for you to hey, I do.
Hey,
They
so I
have to
wanted to
want to get.
talk about. I wanted to talk about this place in Greenville, right, Levon? What it's that place is there, but you also have an event. Let's talk about the March 22nd event, and I'm going to clear my calendar for March 22nd. Jordan, I want you to do the same. We need to
I'm
have an
doing. I was
incredible.
already thinking it.
All right.
There you go. There you go. All right, but we need to go on the website. But if you go on the website, I just did, and I mean, Veterans Outpost. It talks about that you can donate. You can buy your tickets already, which will be great for
Is
people
this
into
the
the
gala
year.
event
Do what?
that you were talking about? The gala?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
it's
Okay.
March 22nd. You can become a sponsor. You can do whatever on this. But what an incredible! I really like the. But you have a place because a lot of organizations they don't really have a place where you can go to. So, how big is so you have a house? It's in Greenville, Levon, outside Dallas, 50, 60 miles. I'm assuming something like that. Tell us about that, or do people go there all the time, or is it just what? Tell us more about that, or how can we get more involved in the house out there?
Well, so yeah, actually, right now, as we're trying to finish the event center, so we're looking for people to do sheetrock and different things, and builders if they could donate. We've had a lot of our wood donated or at a cheaper price. Electrical work was a lot of it was donated, so we've had some amazing people. But that's really where we're at now is to finish this building.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
a
I can't do sheetrock per
oh, come
se, but I did have to patch a dry wall situation in my house. So I
right.
am not an expert, but I can help.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, that's what we're looking for, and just the funds to finish. And we're hoping that last year I think we raised almost $200,000 our last gala.
That's
Uh,
amazing.
And this year, we're very certain we're going to raise enough money to finish this building because once we have this building finished, we can start having events out there, and that's going to be
Oh,
huge.
I think it's
Yes,
incredible.
absolutely.
It's not, and to get people out there. I mean, you can obviously do Zoom or whatever with people, but to getting people out there, having
There's
events,
an
having people.
energy to it.
Yeah, I
There's this
know. I love that.
connectedness. And
Yeah, we
one of
just
the
had
things,
a
oh, go
benefit
ahead.
out there. So
Yeah.
when we finally had that Lisa structure up, it was cool, so people could go out and
Yeah,
see it. So we had a little concert
You
out
know,
there.
I appreciate
one
the
of the
invite.
biggest
Not.
Yeah,
one of the biggest things that we've talked about in many different shows here is community.
yeah,
What does your community look like? How supported are you? And it's easy. It's like it is unfortunately so easy to get into that tunnel vision of being isolated and not seeing what's around you, not seeing who's around you. And so I'm so appreciative of not just you taking on this project, but as a military brat, it means so much that you're thinking of the families, because I think that by you thinking about the families and thinking about those opportunities to bring the kids along with it,
Hmm.
I think that it will also allow for a natural opportunity for kids to reconnect with their parents, because when parents that have served come back, they're different. The
right.
emotions are different. They
Right.
are different.
Yeah.
How they interact with life is different. And so when you allow those opportunities for kids to reconnect with their parents in that way, in that environment that's safe and fun and happy, and it will allow them to also process. And so I think that part cannot be understated because it is so important, and it's a factor of PTSD that people don't often think about when it comes to the family and how they're interacting, and how that's going. And so I just wanted to mention that for a moment, that cannot be understated. Very, very cool that you're even thinking about doing that, and going to be incorporating that. That's big. That's huge.
Yeah. But and two,
Yeah.
to have people and to have a vehicle or something that people like you did when you started this uh, Veterans Outpost, when it's a vehicle that people can go to if you're a veteran
Right.
or if you're somebody that wants to help a veteran. I mean, man, I mean that's just so awesome.
Yeah.
I've heard some great stories over the time, and I had the guy on the CEO of 22 Kill. I can't think of his name right now. It's been a couple of years. I had him on the show, and I did 22 push-ups right there. We all did 22 push-ups, but take their life every day. 22 veterans take their life every day, which is something extremely serious. I'm sure you've thought about it. I don't know what triggered you not to, Jason, but I'm sure there's things that just are so incredibly, emotional, and it's like, what am I living for, and what's my purpose,
Yeah.
and you've overcome that,
And
obviously.
refinding it, because your purpose in the military is so like defined
Yeah.
and like clear, and when you get to civilian life, it's just different.
Right.
And not just for the people that are serving, but for the families too, because when you're in the family, you are a part of the mission, whether
Right.
you want to or not. You're like, all right,
Exactly.
we're moving to South Korea. All right, okay, now we're moving to Alaska. Like,
Right.
it's like you're a part of that mission too. You're doing it as well, and there's so many things that go into it. But yeah, you are so inspiring, and I hope that if you are watching this show and you are struggling, and you hear, Jay and all of us here talking about this, like, you are not alone, and you are cared for, you are seen, you are heard, and you are loved, and it's worth being here and being a part of something like this, like just life in general. And if you're struggling, if you are in a dark place, like, reach out to myself, reach out to Jay. You can reach out to anybody, Jason, like, reach out to anybody who's here on the show. Like, we open door policy. It matters, and being um, just having the dialogue and having the community it's so important. Jason, if you have anything to add on that note, please feel free
I
to
just want to say too is that, when the wars aren't there anymore, I think people forget about the military. They're not on the news anymore and different things, but PTSD, and they don't disappear. Like, my leg will never grow back. I will never.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I might walk again. I'm not gonna say that, but not anytime soon. So, these problems persist, and we just can't forget about them. These are, it's also for first responders too. And the first
yes,
responders go through tough situations, you know, daily. I mean, just the stuff that's, that the Allen malls that, we're hope to have those guys out there and talk to those guys, when it's open, that they can have like a decompression day where they can go in there and just have fun and just kind of forget about everything else and take their families and just have fun and relax with one another and get away from the work environment. But
yeah,
yeah, I just think we can't forget about these people.
yeah,
They've they've paid a high price for all of us, and I feel it's our duty to take care of
yes.
them
Right.
It's
and to
never free.
right.
Yeah.
Any act of service is never free, and it's easy to not think about that. But I think that this kind of naturally segues into something that has caused some frustration, not just for you, but you've been vocal about this, and that's the lack of support for pre 9/11 veterans. From organizations like the Wounded Warrior Project, which only assists in those injured post 9/11. So, can you explain a little bit more about those challenges, and that's created not just for you but for others as well, and what we can do to maybe help, if anything?
Yeah, yeah, it is, and you hit a bad spot here, so I'm trying to keep good attitude with this, but
Mm.
I'm sorry.
no, no, I was just kidding. But it's and there was a time where I have Medicare and my military insurance TRICARE, and there was some things that went wrong in the paperwork that um, I didn't fill out or didn't get noticed, so I lost my insurance for like almost a year.
Oh my gosh.
So I was, and I can still go to the VA, but it's a long ways, and
Yeah.
it wants to. Sometimes it's not the best place to go, but so I was in real need of physical therapy, and I went to the Wounded Warrior Project to see if they could help me because I thought that's what they did, and they said no, you got hurt before 9/11, so we can't help you, and then the guy said, we love all our veterans, but we just take care of those that got hurt after 9/11, which I thought was the dumbest thing to say.
That's so wild. Why? Do you know why that is? Like, or they just,
I don't know if there's some incentives. I think even the government does that too. Like even like the government has a program, the caretakers, where they pay your spouse to be your caregiver and actually pay
oh,
them money.
I didn't know that.
Because when I tore my rotator cuff about 6 months ago snow skiing, and so I only had
Is there anything that you don't do? You
Good for
do
you.
all
Good
of
for you.
the I
No,
mean,
yeah,
I'm glad. Right?
and
that's so cool. And I'm sorry about your shoulder.
Yeah.
yeah, I only had one out of four limbs working. I couldn't. So I had to have a caregiver every day. Came out of my morning, help me get in my wheelchair, help dress me, take it, and it's
Yeah.
tough when you're having. It's so much easier if your wife could do it, right?
Hmm.
And you feel more
Right.
comfortable doing those things. And so it's a good program they had, but they opened it up to veterans after 9/11 first for 10 years before they opened it up to veterans before 9/11.
Wow.
And it's discrimination as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I don't know what else to
Yeah.
call it, but tunnels to towers, all the big ones, that's the way they're set up
Yeah.
is
I mean,
those
by definition, that would be yes. Discrimin.
yeah, it makes me think like that my service doesn't matter to them.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That it's not important. It's only important with the war on terror. And, I mean, I don't know a single person that's a paraplegic or a quadriplegic and I've met many, being in the wheelchair games and stuff like that. I don't know of one person that hadn't had a house built for them that got hurt after 9/11. I've been offered twice to have a house built for me until they found out that, I got hurt before 9/11. So yeah, it's a mortgage-free house. So
Well,
it's frustrating. So,
well,
and fortunately, a great organization called Smiles Charity, they renovated my house and did some
Yeah.
things. But in my last house, my wife and I just moved here recently, and it cost us around 60 grand to renovate this house, and it's almost a new house.
Just to
And
make it
it's
wheelchair
just
friendly,
to make it
or
wheelchair friendly to
yeah.
make it's a lot of money, and
yeah.
it's tough. Being a paraplegic is expensive, and that's one of the things that we hope to help with the Veterans Outpost because some of the things that have helped me has been sports, but like I still play golf, and so I have a chair that stands me up where I can still play golf. But it's a $30,000 chair,
Wow.
so you just
Wow.
something you could just go out and get. Or my race that I did my marathon, I was a $5,000 chair. I mean, it's just if I want to play tennis, I can't just get a tennis racket and get some
Yeah.
tennis shoes. I have to get
Right.
a tennis chair that's like 5 or 6 grand. So
Right.
we have these all track vehicles that they can, be part in. So it's
Yeah.
tough. It's expensive and we need help. I mean, we're not, it's,
You're
it's
not
tough.
made of money. You're like actively hurt, and you're trying to live a normal life.
People,
Now,
Right.
people take for granted
Right.
is
I am
what they do.
appreciative of the fact that there are, in fact, like things that you can buy to like I didn't know that there was a tennis chair. I didn't know that there were any of those things. So like it's very cool that they exist, but very tough that it's so expensive. I mean, I know caretakers are really expensive. My boyfriend's mom who recently passed, she had Parkinson's and then turned into dementia. And having a caretaker in the home, is it's expensive. And then there's also, like you said, like if your spouse can be paid to be the caretaker, like it alleviates some of that burden of cost, but also like it's a very intimate thing for to have a caretaker because you're
Absolutely.
needing so much help, and so like there's just a little bit of that, like, whoa, who is this,
It's
what's
very personal
happening?
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Unbelievable. Well, hey,
You,
I
you
want to
know,
get back. I want to get back to, if you don't mind, just talking about
yeah,
finishing up the podcast. We're almost at the end. I've got a hard stop here, but I want to make sure that we do talk about Veterans Outpost. We talk about March 22nd, 2025. We talk about other agreement or other things that we um,
Yeah. I mean, what's next
donating.
after that? We have the gala, and then what's next? Anything else?
I
Like,
know, I
what?
know.
How can Jay and I be a part more of what you're doing? Like, this is something, like we said, like we want to help others, and so like we want to be a part of something like this, right, Jay?
Exactly.
yeah, from the ground roots, it's been a my twin sister's big, she's a big part of this, and too, and it's just everyone just loves our cause and what we're doing, and it's just been wonderful the support we're getting. But it's tough. Raising money is not an easy thing, but
Right.
we have our hearts are in the right place, and we're not taking any money out ourselves. This is David Thompson and I's full-time job, is building this outpost without any pay, because we believe in it, and we know it's going to make a difference,
Right.
and the veterans and first responders and their families too. It's a
Yeah.
cause that's worth giving.
Well, you saw it here. You saw it here on the Jay Young Show with Jordan. Hey, Jordan, appreciate you. All the things you do. You want to kind of finish up, and then we'll wrap this thing up. I want to talk about. I want to close it out with a really good talk about Veterans Outpost. But
Yeah. I just have, Jay, I have one last
the
question.
the
Jason.
question.
The question. So, Jason, you have done incredible things. You've been through just so many different situations, different paths, struggles, challenges, opportunities, highs, lows, everything in between. If you could tell your 18-year-old self one piece of advice, knowing what you know now, what would that be?
Um, I think I would have to say, just have faith. If you're, and to never lose hope, no matter how bad things is. Hope is so important, and your faith is so important, because no matter what devastating road you might be going down, that there's a reason for it if your heart's in the right place, and I just believe that there's purpose in your life, and that's the whole thing. I think a lot of these veterans that do take their life, I think they lose purpose. I think that's so important, to keep purpose and a mission in life.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Absolutely.
Well, I do believe that. I think that there is. I was thinking about the major word here. If there is a major inspiration or resiliency or hope, or I mean, there's just
Hmm.
so many different words that we could use, and I believe that the Veterans Outpost gives people hope and gives people a purpose. You know,
Yes.
it gives people a purpose. The March 22nd, or if you get together once a week or once every month or every two, whatever it's a purpose, and I do like that. I mean, it's like Bible study every Friday morning at 6:30.
It
It's
gives
like
you
there's
something to look forward to.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, and
One of the
helping other people.
really quick that we do it at this award is I um, developed an award. It's called the Renewed Strength Award, and it's for veterans who have gone through really tough times, but it made example for others to follow. And the first recipient was John Wayne Walding, and amazing guy. He was make this quick, but he was a Green Beret, had his leg shot by a sniper during a battle,
Oh
taped
my
it to
God.
his thigh, and he kept fighting. Then he went back and went through sniper school in special forces, and he was the first amputee sniper.
Wow.
So
Wow.
and actually now we call it the John Wayne Walding Award. And we got the first one. He got his own award.
That's
Um,
great.
Last year we gave it
That's
to
awesome.
congressman.
Yeah, I know him. He's
To
been on the Jay Young show. Matter of fact, John Wayne. I need to find him.
Yeah, he's an amazing
I need
guy.
to I need to touch base with him. That'd be great.
Yeah, and
Um,
then the next we gave it to was Congressman Keith Self, because he retired. He was Army 25 years, Special Forces, retired judge, and he decided that his work wasn't finished, and he went into public office, become at 70 years old, to become a
Wow.
U.S. congressman, to give back. So it's going to be real interesting to see who gets the award this year. So
yeah, That's awesome. That is so good. Well, we got to wrap it up. I'm sorry we could go on forever. I want to have you back on the show sometime.
I want to, but
I know. I've just got so many things going. I've got something coming up real soon, but I don't want to. I want people to make sure they stay connected, and there are 22 veterans a day that is counted that take their own life. What can you do to help? That's the biggest question here is what can you do to help? And doing nothing doesn't count. Okay, you've got to do something. Give your time. Look up Veterans Outpost website, or whatever you can do. Come out with us to March 22nd and donate money, donate time. I mean, if you don't have any money, you can also donate your time. But if you don't have the time, then we want your money, right? Is that the way we talk about it?
Both.
Hey, whichever. Okay, it takes both, and sometimes people don't have both. But one out of two is pretty good. So go to the website today.
Hey, that's 50%. I don't know.
Absolutely.
If that's passing,
I mean,
it is. We're part of the way there.
As long as we're batting 500. I'm sorry, Jason.
One more time, Jason.
I was just saying that we have some great silent auctions and live auction items, and yeah, it's a great time, great band.
I'm so excited. Well, we've maybe partially invited ourselves, but we definitely want to be there and support you, Jason. It's been such a pleasure having you on the show, hearing your story, seeing the twists and turns that you've overcome and where you're at today. Meeting your dog, that was also really fun.
What a great story.
And we just appreciate you being here, and we appreciate what you're doing. I know that I can say that as a military brat, it means the world to do that. You're doing what you're doing.
Absolutely, Jason. That's so great, and that's one of the greatest things that we can help right now. Is just with your resiliency, your ability to put things on the map and help people and give them a vehicle where they can. It's like a good book I'm reading right now is called The Four Agreements. Miguel Ruiz.
Oh, I love that book.
Yeah, I know, great book. Yeah,
it's great.
I was just looking at it, and I'm going over that chapter by chapter with the company. So every week, everybody has to listen to me, and I talk about the agreements, which I do love it. I think it's an incredible book. It talks about.
It's such an easy read too.
Yeah,
it is. Yeah.
Good.
Well, Jason, we'll definitely have to keep in touch and have you on again. Keep updated with everything that's happening at Veterans.
I would love to be back on your show.
Yeah,
it's been
thank you so much. And hey, let's do something this holiday season for somebody else. That's if you can change a life and you can change and you can help somebody else. That's what this season's all about. Jason, thank you so much for being here today. Jordan, always a pleasure to be with you. Thank you, everybody, and until next time.